Hey, it's Steve. Well, I've made some more progress on the small portable N-scale switching layout. You can see here I have some areas that have a basic concrete base in place right now. I haven't done any weathering on those areas thus far, but what's special about them is that all of them contain various pieces of metal strapping, metal brackets, just washers, things that I found around the garage that I could embed underneath them, and that allows me to have magnets in my structures, and I can then move around the structures and replace them as I want and swap them out over time very easily without damaging any of the scenery. And eventually the goal is to have different structures for different operating sessions, and so I can essentially customize each operating session, not just based on the type of rolling stock I have, but also the type of industries that I have on the layout during that operating session. So let's go ahead and take a look at how I worked on these structure base areas.
Okay, so I started out by cutting sections of 1/4-inch foam core board to fit all the areas that I wanted to have either roadway or structure bases. And then once that was done, I laid out various pieces of metal brackets, straps, washers, and so forth in all the areas where I wanted to be able to magnetically attach buildings. And then I just traced around those with a knife, cutting out those sections of foam core board. And then I glued in strips of styrene to help build up the areas where I was going to have each of the brackets. So the top of the bracket would be pretty much even with the top of the foam core board. I glued all the brackets in with more tacky glue, and then just continued working my way around the layout until I had all the various sections filled in with the brackets. And so you can see here what that looked like with all the metal brackets embedded within the foam core board. In order to cover all that up and to provide a finished roadway type surface, I went ahead and covered all of those areas with pieces of sheet styrene, cutting everything to pretty much match the same size as the foam core board. And then I also built a grade crossing across the track. I used more tacky glue to glue down the styrene, and then I glued a couple of neodymium magnets to one of my structure pieces, and then filled in one of my other structures with spray foam so it would be a little bit more durable when I was picking it up and moving it around the layout. And then once the foam was dry, I cut it even with the base of the structure and glued in 4 magnets so it would have plenty of areas to attach to various pieces of metal embedded in the actual layout base. Next, it was time to spray paint all the layout bases, and so I covered all the track areas with masking tape. And then before I actually painted everything, I went ahead and took a knife and scored in expansion joints across all of those concrete base and roadway areas. I just used a metal ruler as a guide and also as a way to evenly space all the lines. And then I just worked my way across the layout using the rule to make evenly spaced score marks across all of those roadway and base areas. Once that was done, I took a sanding block and lightly sanded all of the concrete base areas to help remove any little raised edges where I made the score marks, and to also provide a little bit better tooth for the paint to adhere when I spray painted it. And then I took 3 different colors of spray paint, 1 tan and a couple gray colors, and just sprayed everything down to provide a nice concrete base color for the entire layout. There's still plenty of weathering to do here, and so that has to be done still, but I'll go ahead and do that once I have more of the scenery work done around the roadway areas so I don't end up having to redo and touch up those areas on the roadways. But here you can see what all the concrete areas look like.
Here are one structure in a couple different parts that I have partially built. There's still details to add and weathering and stuff to do, but I did build a sample structure to kind of show how they can be rearranged on the layout. So both of these structure segments have magnets in the bases, which are of course covered up at this point. But with the metal that's embedded underneath the concrete areas, that does allow them to kind of snap into place. And it stays, you can slide them around, but it does stay pretty strong. And to give you an idea of how strong that bond is, I'll just go ahead and try to shake them off. And you can see that for the most part, they're not going to move much and stay pretty much right where you put them. So you can close the lid, carry it around, and those structures will stay where they're at. And so say I don't want to have this structure here, I can remove it, stick it here on this side, and it's going to stay pretty strong right there. Again, I can shake it, it won't move around. And so it's going to be sturdy over there. I could just have this structure here against the end there, put that there, or I can move things over here, have this structure possibly over there in that area. In this way, I can kind of customize things within a range of what'll fit in this sort of environment. And that will allow me to have different types of operating sessions. So I might have some silos for plastic pellets, or maybe a food processing plant, or it might just be regular warehouses, or I could just have one area open as a team track on another operating session. So overall, that's kind of the idea here. The current thinking is I will just change out the ones in the front. So I'll have 4 spots, essentially 2 on the left and 2 on the right, that I can swap out for different industries. So that will give me some flexibility, because in most of the time, I figure I'll just want to change out one industry anyway, depending on what I'm trying to do here for an operating session. So, but anyway, if you are looking at doing a portable switching layout, you want to have a lot of flexibility in your operating session, consider having structures that are easily removable. It doesn't have to be magnets. It could be, some wooden dowels that are on the bottom of every structure platform, and maybe you have a couple spots where you can plug them into in the layout and do things that way. Or you can just have them sitting there without any attachment method at all, but just have them unattached to the layout, so you can easily pick them up and move them off the layout and store them, and then just select which structures you want to have on for each individual operating session. But anyway, that's a look at progress on the portable N-scale switching layout. Thanks for watching. Bye.